Hello everyone, back to you in today's first video. We're looking at some autumn analogues for today's first video. Our good friend James Ackrill has been trawling through the reanalysis to come up with some analogues for us for this autumn. We're specifically focusing on ENSO for this update. It's going to prove a little bit problematical, this, because it's going to take a lot of fine judgment, really, in terms of where we are with the ENSO condition at the moment. I mean, trying to find years to match it to. I don't think there is actually a completely definitive match for this year or this autumn in terms of ENSO going back into the 1800s, so quite a unique autumn in some ways. But James has done his best to try and come up with some close sort of matches in terms of what's happening with ENSO for this autumn and what's happened leading up to this autumn, of course. So I'll explain it all in a second. Before I get on with that, though, just say that later on today, we've got the Gasworthy's Sunday Roundup coming up. Have an eclectic mix, as always, on a Sunday. Bring several things together, and that'll be coming up for you sometime over lunch. And they also update Stormwatch today, so quite a lot going on at the website. Just saying, it could be quite a long video, so if you can't watch it all in one go, don't worry, you'll be able to come back and watch the video whenever you want, because it's going to be placed on the autumn updates page later today. There'll be a written report that goes with this update as well, so you'll be able to come back, read written report, and watch video whenever you want if you can't watch it all in one go. So it will be available for the foreseeable future on the autumn updates page if you would like to do that, and it'll be placed on that page probably sometime around 5, 6, 7 o'clock this evening when I have time to do it. Right, let's have a look at our analogues then. And as I say, it's going to take a lot of fine sort of judgment to judge this this sort of quite a complicated complicated scenario. So we're going to have to go right way back into last winter as our starting point. Now, last winter of 2016-2017, we had a really weak La Nina. So of course, La Nina is signalled by these blue colours just here through the equatorial Pacific Ocean. We've got Peru over here, we've got Indonesia over here, and then we've got these blue colours running across the equator. That is the signature of a very, very weak La Nina event taking place. We just about, winter 2016-2017, just about reached the required threshold to get a La Nina designated. It was a very, very close run thing between just having an ENSO neutral winter or actually managing to pull off a La Nina winter. We did just about pull it off, but it was a very, very close run thing. Now, where we are right now is that we are in ENSO neutral conditions. So we're neither in El Nino nor are we in La Nina. So you can see from the sea surface temperature anomalies in the equatorial Pacific Ocean, from Peru over there to Indonesia over there, you can see we're basically around normal, around neutral, albeit on the slightly warmer side. We don't have many blue colours appearing there, so we are a little bit on the warmer side of ENSO neutral, but nevertheless we are still in ENSO neutral condition. We are likely to be remaining so into the autumn. This is the CFS V2 ENSO forecast going through to the start of next year, actually. So to get a La Nina designated, of course, we have to be down here. We have to be under, at or under 0.5 degrees below average over 5 tri-monthly periods to get a La Nina designated. But the further down we go, the stronger the La Nina event will become. So if we went down to there, we would be in a very strong La Nina event. Same idea for El Nino, a warm event. So to get a warm event designated, again, we have to be at 0.5 degrees above average, at or above that temperature over, again, 5 tri-monthly periods. And of course, the further up this scale we go, the warmer we get. So we come up here. If we got up to there, then we would be having a very strong or even a super Nino event. This area here, this 0, that is ENSO neutral. And if you are anywhere from there to there, you are essentially having ENSO neutral period, and that's where we are right now. So at the end of last year, start of this year, we was just about in a weak landing event. Then through the spring, we lifted up onto the warmer side of ENSO neutral, went to there, and that's where we remain. Essentially, we remain on the warmer side of ENSO neutral right now. The forecast part, and this is where we are right now, by the way, the forecast part of this ensemble graph shows with black dash line that we are likely to stay on the around ENSO neutral, on the warmer side of ENSO neutral, albeit the temperature reducing very, very gradually through to the end of the year. This is January 2018, just here, when we are going a little bit under neutral, but still within the threshold of saying we're in ENSO neutral condition. So what we've got to do for these autumn analogues from an ENSO perspective is to have a look at autumns that were ENSO neutral, but of course there will be a lot of autumns that were ENSO neutral autumns. So I've got to try and narrow it down a little bit more from that. So not only are we looking at autumns that are ENSO neutral, we're also looking at autumns that were preceded, if you like, in the winter before by weak La Nina. So essentially these autumns are weak La Nina to ENSO neutral autumns, albeit some of the autumns might be on the warmer side of ENSO neutral, some of the autumns might be on the cooler side of ENSO neutral, but they will all be within ENSO neutral. At least most of them will be within ENSO neutral. Okay, hope that makes sense. Rather complicated, and it is a very tricky season to forecast because of this ENSO state. So our first autumn is that of 1891. This is the reanalysis that James has sent through to us. As always, a big thank you to James for doing these analogues for us. I know James will be watching, and I haven't got time, I couldn't do these analogues updates that we do for the seasonal long-range forecasts now at Gatsby, because I couldn't do these on my own. So big thank you to James, as ever, for sorting these out for us. So this is our first autumn. This is the autumn of 1891. And this is from the starting position that the winter before it, so winter of 1890, 1891, was weak, a weak La Nina winter. By the time we got through to the autumn of 1891, that had progressed from a weak La Nina to ENSO neutral condition. And our first autumn looks very unsettled. We've got a really deep trough of low pressure out to the west of the country, and we're doing something like that with the flow and with the jet stream as well. Got a ridge in over Scandinavia and eastern parts of Europe. This just looks a very unsettled autumn. Not overly cold, because the flow will be coming up from a southerly southwesterly direction, but we will be throwing up a lot of rain bands around this really deep trough in the Atlantic. So that does look a very unsettled autumn to start us off. Our next autumn is 1895. Again, this is a weak La Nina through to ENSO neutral autumn. And what we find with this one, again, very deep trough in the Atlantic, but this time it's further south in towards the central part of the Atlantic, as opposed to being further north, such as we saw in 1891. Also got quite a strong ridge across central and southern parts of Europe, and in between, dragging up quite a mild flow from the southwest. So again, that could be a fairly changeable autumn, but it would at least be on the mild, maybe even quite warm side at times. Next autumn is 1917, and again, this one is a Nino to neutral autumn. It was a moderate La Nina through the winter of 1916, 1917, progressing through to ENSO neutral. What we find with this one, the autumn of 1917, is that it's just very unsettled, really deep trough, over and to the north of the country, the flow and the jet stream going through like that. So it would be really wet, really unsettled, bit of an Atlantic onslaught type autumn in 1917. Next year is 1932. This again ENSO neutral to this one is actually going from ENSO neutral in the winter of 1931-1932, and it's staying at ENSO neutral, just going to the warmer side of ENSO neutral. So it's not all that far from a El Nino patch, but it is still within the threshold of an ENSO neutral autumn. Hope you're able to follow this. It's very complicated for this Analogues update. So for this one, it's a very unsettled autumn. Low pressure again is around the UK, this time slightly to our east. We've got a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge going on there, and we're doing something a little bit like that with the jet stream. So this was a slightly colder autumn. It is still an unsettled autumn, but this one is a colder autumn with the wind coming more from a north or northwesterly type direction in 1932. The next autumn is 1934, and this one's back to a weak La Nina in the winter of 33-34, progressing to ENSO neutral by the time we get through to the autumn. So this one, again, it does look quite unsettled. There is a bit of a trend here with many of these autumns to be unsettled. There is so far, anyway. We've got below average heights really extending through the west of Europe, above average heights in the central part of the Atlantic, and over towards eastern Europe. So this is very much a trough ridge, or a ridge trough pattern. The ridge is there, the trough is there, and we go back into the ridge there, and then back to the trough just there. And where we are placed within the troughs and the ridges is that we are well within the trough. So that looks another unsettled autumn for the autumn of 1934. We skip on a decade to 1944, and this one, now this one is even more complicated. This one, for the winter of 1943-1944, it was ENSO neutral, and then we progressed from that to ENSO neutral on the warmer side. Then by the time we got through to this autumn, the autumn of 1944, we was actually at ENSO neutral, but on the colder side of ENSO neutral. Again, there's very little to pick between ENSO neutral on the warmer side, ENSO neutral on the cooler side. It is all still ENSO neutral condition. And again, this one looks unsettled as well. We've got an area of below average height centering very much over the UK, a ridge through the central part of the Atlantic and over into the east and northeast of Europe. Again, we're doing something like that, the flow with the jet stream. So that one could be a little bit cooler again through the autumn of 1944, but the main point is that it would still be a very unsettled autumn, to say the least. Our next autumn is 1948, and this is a little bit different again. This one starts from the proviso of the winter of 47-48 was a failed La Nina. So it had a go at getting to La Nina, but it didn't quite pull it off. It failed, and it didn't actually go into designated La Nina territory. We came very, very close to that happening in last winter, 2016-17. So this is a failed Nina through to ENSO neutral on the cooler side of ENSO neutral. This one is different compared to all the years we've had so far. This one has an area of above average heights, very close to the UK and a little bit to the southwest. We've got below average heights up to the north, up to the north of the country, and we've been doing something a bit like that with the jet streams. So we're on the mild side of the jet there, actually, and we're under a ridge. So that looks like a fairly mild, but also very quiet autumn. There would have been a lot of settled and dry weather through that autumn, albeit would also have been very mild through the autumn of 1948. Now, the next year is 1963, and this one is, so the autumn of 1963 begins in the winter of 62-63, but ferociously cold, winter 62-63. That's a failed La Nina again, although actually at NOAA it does keep chopping and changing. At times over the past years, the winter of 62-63 has actually been designated as a weak La Nina. They keep changing their mind about whether the winter of 62-63 was actually an ENSO neutral winter or a failed La Nina, or whether it did just about get to the threshold of weak La Nina. At the moment, it isn't designated as a La Nina winter, it's just ENSO neutral, and it's a failed La Nina winter. That's how NOAA is designating winter 62-63 right now. So it starts off this autumn with a failed La Nina, and then it goes through to, we go through to a Madoki or Madokai El Nino by the autumn. So this one's a little bit different. 63, the autumn of 1963 is a Madoki or Madokai El Nino autumn, I should say. And what we find for the autumn of 1963 is that we've got really deep below average heights to our north and west, and we're bringing the Atlantic through like that. So it is another very unsettled autumn in 1963. Low pressure is dominant. Very westerly autumn as well, so it would have been generally on the mild side for the autumn of 1963. I think there is definitely a trend here for these autumns to be unsettled. We go on quite a few years, actually, over 30 years, to 1996. That's our next ENSO neutral autumn, following from a weak La Nina winter. Winter of 95-96 was a weak La Nina winter. This autumn looks, again, it is unsettled, but this one, the trough is actually centering more through central parts of Europe. We've got a ridge through the Atlantic, also quite a lot, you'll notice, of northern blocking. And doing something a little bit like that with the flow, with the jet stream. The autumn of 1996 was quite interesting because all three autumn months were distinct. September 1996 was very dry. October was mild and fairly dry. And then November 1996 was colder, with some snow around, and it was also rather unsettled as well. So all three autumn months were very indistinct. Overall, probably this is one of the more settled autumns that we've seen, actually, because the placement of the low pressure, the placement of the trough is actually quite a long way east of us through eastern parts and central parts of Europe. 2001 is different again. That is our next ENSO neutral autumn. This on the cooler side of ENSO neutral, by the way. Starting off with a weak La Nina from the winter of 2001. This one different again, and it is a more settled autumn with above average heights to our west, and we're doing something a bit like that with the jet stream and the flow. You may remember October 2001 was very warm. It's actually, at one point, it may even be still the warmest October on record. Not sure if we've broken that. We may have done in recent years. Can't quite remember. But it's certainly a very warm October in 2001 anyway. Following on from a rather cool September. September, of course, 2001 was a rather chilly and changeable month, and then November 2001 also was rather chilly at times as well, but a more settled autumn, that one, in 2001. And then finally we come through to 2012. This is our last year where we starting from weak La Nina from the winter of 2011-2012 and going through to ENSO neutral by the time we get through to the autumn. This time we're on the warmer side of ENSO neutral, and this one's back to the very unsettled type patterns with a deep area of low pressure or trough centering around the UK, a ridge through the central Atlantic. We're doing something a bit like that with the flow. So it's rather a cool autumn in 2012, one of the more cooler autumns that we've had in recent years, but also very unsettled with quite a lot of rain coming through at times. Now, if we combine all of these years, if we combine the autumn of 1891, 1895, 1917, 1932, 1934, 1944, 1948, 1963, 1996, 2001, and 2012, if we put all of those years together, this is what we come up with. This is the analogue of all years combined for the autumn. Based purely on ENSO state, and it does look a very unsettled autumn, despite those one or two outliers that were a little bit drier. Actually, this looks like a very unsettled signal for the autumn, with a deep trough of low pressure over and to the north of the country, anomalously. And we're doing something like that with the flow and with the jet stream. So it isn't an overly a mild autumn, is an overly cold autumn, actually probably near normal with the temperatures. Certainly not cold though, because there's no northern blocking, there's nothing happening up here to really force the cold air down, so very few of these autumns are cold, just really unsettled autumns with quite a lot of rain coming through. So that's how ENSO is shaping up for the autumn, or how the autumn is shaping up in terms of ENSO, if you like. And it does look like it's an unsettled signal for this autumn. We've had a long run of dry weather, actually, so at some point you would expect the Atlantic to unleash itself a little bit. It may be that that's going to happen through this autumn. We'll have to wait and see whether that comes off. But the signal is quite strong there, actually, over those autumns for a very unsettled autumn to be unleashed upon us for the autumn of 2017. Right, it's been a really complicated one, this one. I hope you was able to follow it. I'm not sure I've done this terribly well, to be honest. The complication is because of the ENSO state. ENSO neutral is always difficult to describe, especially when you're coming from a period that wasn't particularly strong with ENSO either. So, hope you've been able to follow it. The upshot is, if you weren't able to follow it that well, the upshot is, from an ENSO perspective, we're probably looking at a very unsettled autumn, but there were those 2 or 3 outliers within the package that were on the drier side, had more ridging. And of course, what we've also got to do is have a look at the seasonal models. We'll be doing that in a couple of weeks with our second seasonal model roundup for the autumn of 2017. And then next month, we'll have more analogues. So what we're going to look at next month is the summer patterns, what's happened this summer, and how that might progress through to the autumn. So we'll be having a look at years that had a similar type pattern through the course of the summer, and then seeing what that meant for the autumns that followed. So that'll be with you next month. In a couple of weeks, we've got the seasonal model roundup for the autumn of 2017, the second one. And it's all building up, of course, at the end of August to the Gasweather's autumn forecast. That'll be released on the final Sunday of August. Okay, that's all for now. I've got the Gasweather's Sunday roundup coming up in a few hours, 2 or 3 hours time. So come back for that this afternoon. May also be Stormwatch as well. And this evening, this update will be placed on the autumn updates and forecast page with a written summary. So you can come back and have a read of that later if you would like to do so. That's all for now then. Thanks for watching.